Of that plus some international news as preliminary report by South Africa's anti-corruption watchdog clears precedent of any wrongdoing over theft of cash from his luxury farm. You're welcome to the program. Let's start off with the latest development. The Ghana Police Service has arrested 6 persons for their alleged involvement in the murder of a soldier, Imoro Sheriff at Ashaiman in Taifa. The 6, according to the police, have been picked up at various locations within Ashaiman and its environs as a result of painstaking, sustained intelligence-led operations. My colleague Komladum has more in this report. You can also watch that report on all our social media handles at TV3 Ghana. We're also live on DSTV channel 279. Let's take a look at that report from my colleague Komladum now.
After many days of silence by the Ghana Police Service following the murder of a soldier, Sheriff Imoro at Ashaiman, the service has issued a comprehensive detail of events from the killing of a soldier on March 4 to when at least 6 individuals were picked up in connection with the killing of a soldier at Ashaiman, Taifa. The service reveals that on the day the soldier was murdered, he was found in a pool of blood. The assailants attacked him and intended to rob him of his mobile phone and other gadgets. In the ensuing struggle, he was stabbed multiple times with a knife. The police says their investigations reveal on the 3rd of March, the deceased visited a female friend at Ashaiman New Town at about 10:30 p.m. and left the place in the middle of the night at about 1:30 a.m., during which the attack happened. The crime scene team retrieved a number of items, including a knife with blood stains, a backpack which contained a Samsung tablet, an Apple laptop, and a military uniform. Painstaking investigations conducted by the service led to the initial arrest of 2 individuals, namely Safian Musa and Ibrahim Abdul, who aided the police to arrest some other individuals. On March 10, the police arrested Samuel Tete and Abubakar Sadiq, 2 other individuals in addition to the initial 2, making 4 suspects. On the 11th and 12th of March, 2 other individuals were arrested, namely Yusuf Mohammed and Abdul Gafaru. The police says among the 6 individuals, a mobile phone belonging to the deceased soldier was sold many times. In fact, it indicates that they are still tracking the whereabouts of the mobile phone because 2 of the suspects have refused to give information about who is in custody of that mobile phone. Family of a slain Imoro Sheriff, according to the police statement, has been briefed on the status of investigations and the progress made so far.
My son is very calm. He doesn't have friends around.
It is the first time the police is issuing a statement on the happenings in Ashaiman after soldiers raided the community, rounded up 184 individuals, bundled them into vehicles and shuffled them between barracks here in Accra. In that 3-day period while they were in military detention, some of the residents tell us they were maltreated and subjected to some abuse while in detention.
They beat us and they took us from here to Michelle camp. We went there for a while. That place they didn't beat us. Then they transferred us to Bema camp. In the Bema camp we passed through some drill, and after that they brought us back to drop us at runabout.
Now we know all 184 of them have been released. The police does not say at any point in this fresh release of any collaboration between the police and the military with respect to the 6 individuals who have now been arrested and are in custody. In fact, 6 individuals are going to be put before court later today, which is Monday, the 13th of March, 2023.
Well, still on this subject, the Member of Parliament for Ashaiman, Ernest Nogbe, has reiterated his resolve to sue the Ghana Armed Forces and the government over last week's brutalities in the constituency. The MP is also pressing hard for adequate compensation for 184 residents rounded up by the military and others who also suffered various forms of molestation on that Tuesday.
The guys were picked up, they were arrested, so they are in police custody as we speak. And that is why we continue to condemn the act of the military, because They are not trained to effect arrest. The police personnel are trained to arrest and then also to investigate matters. So all the 184 that the military have arrested, they could not find even a single culprit amongst them. And so you can understand what they came to commit in the constituency. But be it that is me, the police have done a yeoman job. The IGP himself was on the ground midnight to effect the arrest. So I'm happy about that situation. And so now all the 184 who were arrested can be released. Some of them have gone to receive medical attention from the hospitals around, and others are still being hospitalized. And so let me say that there are two different groups of people. Some were arrested, some were brutalized, molested, and left in the community. They were not arrested. They were the victims of the circumstances. So most of those people have also have a lot of bruises, brutalities, and then other issues. So they have also gone to hospital to seek for medical attention. Some are still in the hospital as we speak. We are seeking for compensation, but aside the compensation, we are suing the Ghana Armed Forces and the government or the Attorney General because we cannot allow such indiscipline to continue happening in our communities where soldiers will just invade the community and molest innocent residents. And I'm also arranging for a psychologist for them to, coach them and also talk to them because it has become psychological trauma and we don't want it to get to another stage.
Now, still on matters relating to security but away from Ashaiman, a fact-finding mission by the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament to Boko on the conflict has been aborted. Now, it is not the first time such a visit to the area did not happen. Scores of people have been killed and others maimed in the protracted conflict in the area. Parliamentary correspondent Komla Kluche has been explaining why the scheduled visit was aborted.
The information we pick up is that members of the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament, about 10 of them, flew to Tamale this morning to visit the conflict-prone area of Boku. This is actually the second attempt that they have made to go and assess the security situation in Boku. We understand with this particular meeting, the 10 of them who were on the trip had arrived in Tamale and met with the Minister of Defense and also the Minister of Interior, Dominic Nitowo and Ambrose Derry, respectively. When they met them, well, the briefing they had was that there's been sporadic shooting in the conflict area the whole of Friday night and also Saturday, the whole of Saturday. And so the place was too volatile for them to be able to go and then do an assessment. In fact, the members of the committee planned visiting the place to assess what the security situation is and what recommendations they possibly could be making with respect to the prolonged conflict or killings that has engulfed the area. So they were not able to move from Tamale to even Bolga. My understanding also is that the ranking member on the committee, James Agalga, he was already in Bolga awaiting them to meet him up for them to get to the conflict area, but they were not able to even make it to Bolga. The security situation in Bolga over the time has become quite dangerous from what the briefing is that was given to members of the committee that they could not risk. In fact, sources within the committee tell us that even the military could not escort them from Tamale. They said they could not guarantee escorting them from Tamale at least to Bolga, where they would first converge and be able to make their way into Boku. Even efforts by members of the committee to meet with the regional security committee there in Bolga was unsuccessful because the briefings that they had from the defense minister and then the interior minister suggested that they were not going to be able to do that.
Well, on the back of that, security analyst Dr. Adam Bona has described the aborted mission as a result of a failure on the part of the security agencies as a result of a lack of proper intelligence gathering. To some other stories, the distribution of BCG, OPV and measles vaccines with accompanying devices, needle, syringes, safety boxes, among others, to the districts and facilities is expected to begin from today, Monday, March 13. A statement signed by the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumabwaji, said the regional cold vans have been deployed with consignments to their various regional cold rooms for onward delivery. It said all children who missed their scheduled vaccines are still eligible for vaccination. Dr. Kumabwaji reminded the public that the vaccines are free of charge. The vaccines, he said, would be available at designated health facilities and all child welfare clinics across the country. Now, he urged all caregivers not to rush for the vaccine since adequate provisions was made for the rest of the year and beyond. Let's bring you some news on politics. As the General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, Justin Kodua-Frimpong, was hit back at former President John Dramani Mahama for promising to look into the violence during the 2020 elections. He claims that the former president is acting desperate, which explains his many promises. He made the remarks at the party's Women's Wing inauguration at Ayawaso North.
Former President Mahama, during his campaign tour of Techiman North, promised to investigate the 2020 elections violence, but the NPP General Secretary believes the former president is making those promises out of desperation.
He should not act in a way that suggests that he's desperate. At the end of the day, there are rules, there are laws in this country that if you feel that someone has done something against or in contravention of the constitution or the law, then now processes are
He entreated the people of the Ayawaso North constituency to intensify their campaign to snatch the seat from the NDC, adding that the NPP has a strategy to break the 8.
2024 elections is going to be on record. And that is why we are charging our supporters to make sure that wherever they go, they should inform the DPP of Ghana about our record.
The women's wing from the 12 electoral areas in the Ayawaso North constituency were outdoored.
Now, the Electoral Commission will have a hard time getting a new draft of public elections, the registration of voters regulations 2022 laid in Parliament. The objections to the new CI is not just from the minority and civil society groups. Now, Asin Central MP Kennedy Japan says he's opposed to the use of the Ghana card as a sole document for voter registration. Now, here's a Newsdesk report on happening so far on the proposed CI.
The Asin Central MP wonders why one's passport cannot be used to identify him as a Ghanaian. Speaking on a Kumasi-based FM station last week, he refuted the Electoral Commission's assertion that many non-Ghanaians have the Ghana passport. According to the MP, what makes him realize that he is a Ghanaian is his passport, describing the decision by the Electoral Commission as bogus. He said, quote, "For Americans, even Ghanaians who have naturalized, they are so proud to hold an American passport. Ghana has people taking bogus decisions, and I wonder those who sit there and take such decisions." Unquote. Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jane Mensah, briefed Parliament Committee on the new draft of Public Elections Registration of Voters Regulations 2022.
Under this law, we are saying that you cannot come in through the guarantor system or use a passport to prove your citizenship.
Despite her defense, the minority remains opposed to the new constitutional instrument.
The proposed CI, which makes the Ghana card the sole requirement for voter registration, serves as a restraint on citizens' right to register and exercise their franchise in elections. The Electoral Commission is to undertake programs for the expansion of the registration of voters. Instead, the EC rather seeks to undertake a program for the restriction of the registration of voters.
But the majority insists the National Identification Authority system used for registering the Ghana card is more robust than that of the Electoral Commission's.
The Electoral Commission is saying that they admit that their own system is not foolproof. This is a much robust system, and so we want to, as the law provides, align ourselves so that moving forward, we sanitize the system and also ensure that the fraud in the system would be eliminated so that any winner in any election certainly will be appreciated.
The National Democratic Congress, NDC, has meanwhile directed the suspension of all campaigning activities in constituencies it has sitting MPs to allow its legislators to be present in the House at all times in order not to miss out in any crucial decision-making.
Away from that subject, Challenging Heights has petitioned the Africa Continental Free Trade Area over human rights abuses and trafficking and modern-day slavery in the supply chains of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. The petition, which was submitted to the Secretary General, is urging the organization to institute mechanisms that would identify and address issues of child and forced labor, among other human rights violations.
The African Continental Free Trade Area is the world's largest free trade agreement, creating a single market for goods and services for almost 1.3 billion people across Africa. The trade area has an estimated combined gross domestic product of around $3.4 trillion. The agreement is intended to deepen the economic integration of Africa. However, achieving its full potential depends on significant policy reforms and trade facilitation measures among the signatory nations. In the views of Challenging Heights, there is the need for stringent measures on human trafficking, slavery, forced and child labor, among other human rights issues.
This is a laudable idea, but we believe that the AFTA initiative may not realize its goals if the AFTA countries do not take initiative to enact laws to enforce due diligence in supply chains of the companies that are participating in those countries.
Executive Director of the organization, James Kofi Annan, also spoke about some consequences if the continent does not address issues about human rights violations.
Many of those countries that we may be doing business with have enacted due diligence laws within their supply chains, and in those countries they are demanding that any company that does business with the companies of those countries should have policies in place and should have taken steps in addressing issues within their supply chain. With after countries or after companies not having any diligence laws might hamper the goals of AFTA.
12 years ago, the United Nations published the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights. The publication contains the guiding principles on business and human rights, implementing the United Nations Protect, Respect, and Remedy framework. It details concrete and actionable steps for government and companies to meet to protect human rights in company operations, and it provides remedies if human rights violations occur.
The United States Agency for International Development, USAID, has established a platform for public-private dialogue to facilitate the formulation and implementation of strategies for agricultural policies. The project is designed to increase access to agri services and more.
The Ghana Market Systems and Resilience Initiative, MSR, is a 5-year United States Agency for International Development, USAID, funded project that works in 17 districts across the northern, northeast, upper west and upper east regions. The project is targeted at addressing major issues of fragmented and disconnected market, poor participation of women, youth and marginalized populations. Through its Feed the Future Ghana Market Systems and Resilience Initiative, U.S. aid is to improve Ghana's agriculture sector through knowledge and local governance. The project is designed to increase the accessibility of agriculture services and connect specific policy measures to enhance local economic governance. Team head for the Feed the Nation MSR activity, Samson Konlan, spoke about the importance of the project.
When we bring these stakeholders together, they are able to dialogue on what is required in order to improve how we implement the policies and the regulations around the area that I mentioned, like the sanitary, phytosanitary issues, certification, traceability, and the seed systems.
Vozi Frederick Doma is Upper West Regional Crops Officer at the Department of Agriculture.
Ghana as a whole currently, the seed system is having numerous challenges, starting with the seed quality, the accessibility issues, the traceability issues. They are all a myriad of problems. But MSR cannot just go and select an institution to work with. To begin, that's why they brought all of us here.
It affords us the opportunity to be able to contribute our quota in terms of policies around, public-private partnerships, and also to learn, network, and then, also unlearn some of the policies that probably are not viable for the business environment.
Let's bring you some international news now. And South Africa's anti-corruption watchdog has cleared President Cyril Ramaphosa of any wrongdoing in a preliminary report into a cover-up scandal that has tarnished his reputation. The public protector said it has notified implicated parties of their preliminary findings of its probe over the theft of large amounts of cash from Ramaphosa's luxury Phala Phala farm, something the president is accused of having attempted to conceal. The scandal, which erupted in June, involved about $500,000 in cash that Ramaphosa acknowledged were stolen from beneath sofa cushions at his ranch. The report found the head of the Presidential Protection Unit, to whom Ramaphosa reported the crime, acted improperly, investigating the case directly instead of reporting it to the police, according to extracts published by several media outlets. Well, that's how we wrap up on the news on New Day. There's always more news on our website, TV3News.com. Please log on for the latest in business and sport, entertainment, and general news as well. My name is Noble Crosby.